ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिना नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम. One of the bold statements made by a realized soul about people like us is quite startling. He said, we are imposters living in this world. One needs to think about it. We feel we are leading a particular life in this world, but the entire life that we spend is not the way of spending life. What is the meaning of this statement? The meaning is, I am behaving in a manner which is not the manner in which I am expected to behave. To explain it further, the whole creation is called prapancha. The whole creation is called prapancha. Who created the prapancha? Ishvara created the prapancha. If the Ishvara has created the prapancha, how it is full of so much of sorrow? If God is the creator of the creation, why would he create something which is so painful and so full of sorrow, hatred, deceit, jealousy? That would mean either God is not worth calling a God, or the creation or the world that I am staying in is different than the God's world. That is why, if we take a cue from the Grantha Panchadashi, there are two types of worlds we have. One is Isha Kruta Prapancha, God's created world, and second is Jiva Kruta Prapancha. That means, in the world that is created by the God, which is the most natural offshoot of God's powers, full of nothing else but happiness, Anandam, I have in turn created my own world in that world, which is a Jiva Kruta Prapancha, which is full of sorrow. That means there are two worlds. One is God's own world. Second is my created world, Isha Kruta Prapancha, Jiva Kruta Prapancha. How is it that I created this world? And the only reason why I created this world is mamatva. So what happens because of mamatva? When in God's created world, Jiva puts its mamatva, me, mine, the result is sorrow. So the definition of dukkha is sorrow is the resultant state arising when Jeev adds mamatva to Ishvara Kruta Prapancha. Mamatva Avishkara in Ishvara Kruta Prapancha leads to a resultant state of the Jeev called dukkha. That's it. The only fundamental mistake is mamatva or me and mineness put into the Ishvara Kruta Prapancha. Then what is Sukham? Sukham is inherent state of Jiva when he is established in Ishakruta Prapancha. When we stay in Lord's creation as the constituent of Lord's creation without creating our own world through mamata or ahanta, it is called Ishakruta Prapancha Avastha, and the resultant state there is of Sukham. Then what is Anandam? Anandam is a state when Jivakruta Prapancha, Ishakruta Prapancha, both are transcended. Technically speaking, Ishvara Kruta Srushti, when becomes polluted by Mamatva Avishkara, then the resultant state of mind is called Dukkham. When Mamatva Alambana Rahita, Ishvara Prapancha Vihita Avastha, Samanya Avastha is there, the resultant state of mind is called Sukham. And when Prapancha Virahita, Vyakta Avyakta Param Avarnaniya Avastha is there, the state there, not of the mind, because the mind also doesn't exist, the state there is called Anandam. So by now it must be clear what is Sukham, what is Dukkham, and what is Anandam. The question now comes that when I created my own Jivakruta Prapancha through Mamatva, how do I achieve it? There must be some modality of doing it. And the sensory indulgence is the modality of adding Mamatva to Ishvara Kruta Prapancha. In other words, moment I indulge in sensuousness through the Indriyas towards the Vishayas, the immediate birth is of the Mamatva, and you have already been thrown out of the Ishvara Kruta Prapancha or the God's world, and you are into Jiva Kruta Prapancha. It's very important to understand that Indriya Kruta Jnana is not indulgence. My eyes see a lady walking on the road. So I get a jnanam that there is a lady walking on the road. Up to this point, this is not sensory indulgence. This is Indriya Kruta Jnana. It is pure, pristine perception and cognition. When I relate that jnanam with the tinge of me in form of my experience, my mind immediately says, she is a beautiful lady, and some sensuousness comes in my mind. Mamatva is created on the spot. In other words, the Antakarana has given pratisad to the knowledge that is achieved by the Indriyas. This response and reaction of antakarna to the jnanam achieved through the indriyas leads to mamatva. That is why all the realized souls or the Jivan Muktas, including Gurudeva, they also saw the beautiful ladies all around. They did understand what dress she is wearing, how is she walking. But it did not, it stopped there only as knowledge of perceiving a person. It did not get tinged or polluted with my own smrutikruta impressions about that knowledge, making it a desirable object. And that is the reason why Jivan Mukta's attitude towards the world, Jiva Kruta Prapanch, is totally different. All the Jivas, whatever is happening to them, it's seen by a different view, different vision by Jivan Mukta. Now, this attitude of a Jiva to project a mamatva, me-mindness, this attitude of projecting, in technical words of yoga, is called vikshepa. And whenever such a mind undertakes an activity of creating its own world called Jiva Kruta Prapancha through mamatva, it leads to projecting the mind in the Lord's world, giving a wrong response from the antakarna to the things existing around. The tree, the water flowing, the mountains, the breeze, these are all Lord's creation. But in my world, they have a different interpretation in my mind. In fact, J. Krishnamurti says, we have never seen the things as they are. The only people who are able to see the things as they are the yogis. Bhagavad Gita is replete with the word pashyati. We are into the category of drushtva. We see. We don't see the real nature of the things as they are. Only the yogi is able to see them as they are. Because we, being in our own world, we impose our seeings and understandings on the things around. That is the reason we do not understand what is our wife. What do you mean by having children? What do you mean by doing a job? What do you mean by earning money? These are all impressions created by our own mind, and that is why we suffer. A Jivan Mukta or a yogi sees all these things, stays amidst them, but never get contaminated by them because he has developed a vision. Dhyana avastita yadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino pashyanti. That is called correct art of seeing. So it goes without saying that it is the mind that is giving a wrong response to the things that are perceived by the indriyas that is creating my world, which again has got certain drawbacks. Such a mind, when it goes out of Ishwara Kruta Prapancha and tries to project itself into Jiva Kruta Prapancha, it suffers from the projectality or the vikshepa, which are the obstacles. These are the obstacles which prevent us from getting into the Lord's world. The whole idea is to come back from our own created world and get settled into the Lord's world. The obstacles that are created in coming back into the Lord's world are called antarayaha, vyadhistyana, pramada, samshaya, avirati, bhranti darshana, anupalabdhi, anavasthitam. There are 9 obstacles which prevent us from getting back into the Lord's world. And the yoga tries to bring back the jiva into the Lord's world so that he is established into what is called as sukham. Because the vikshepa, the response of the antakarana, the projectility of antakarana into jiva srishti leads to these 9 obstacles. The essential outcomes of these obstacles are dukkha daurmanasya angasya ejatvam shwasa prashwasaha iti vikshepa sahabhu. So dukkham is an essential gift given to a person who responds in a wrong manner and creates his own world in the Lord's world. Now comes the question, if there are 9 obstacles I have created myself to go away from Lord's world, because of which I'm suffering from 4 things, dukkham, daurmanasya, angasya ejatvam, and shwasa prashwasa. My respiration is getting affected. There is a silent vibration every time is subjected to, sometimes getting into the frank agitation. Daurmanasya, the weakness of mind, or create and or kamuk, a mind full of desires, and dukkham. These 4 things are already happening to me as an essential offshoot of the obstacles that I have created. Now, to remove those obstacles and to come back from Jiva Srushti to Ishvara Srushti, I have been told that there are 7 different ways. 9 obstacles, 4 concomitant effects, 7 ways of coming back, 7 ways of correcting ourselves, 7 ways of making our life better, 7 ways of removing dukkham forever. And how those 7 are to be obtained? Tat pratishedartham ekatattva abhyasaha. Tat pratishedartha, to remove those 9 obstacles and their concomitant effects. Ekatattva abhyasa. You have to take any one fundamental principle and study it. Abhyasa. Study it means repetitively perform the exercise till you achieve the fulfillment. Continuous, constant, repetitive, these are the adjectives used when the word abhyasam is used. Of these different pratishedha or different ways of coming back into the world, the first we already saw, and that first is when your eyes are open, when your indriyas are open to the surroundings. In other words, when you are interacting with the world, you can use the first instrument of pratishedha to remove the obstacle. The first is interaction with the world. My biggest problem is every time I cannot be closing my eyes and sitting for the solitude because I'm working in this world. Every day I have to go to the office, meet people, interact with people, my family, my friends. So first I want to know how I do not get diverted from Lord's world to Jiva Srushti, Jiva Prapancha when I'm interacting with others. And the simplest method described by Patanjali Maharaj as the first pratishedha for removing these obstacles is behavior in the world, and the behavior is Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam, Sukha Dukkha Papa Punyanam, Bhavanat Chitta Prasadam. All you do in this world is four things. In other words, Patanjali Maharaj is giving a mantra for the behavior in the world. There is no other methodology of behaving in this world other than this sutra. And the sutra states that be happy with others' happiness. So you are not supposed to exhibit any other emotions other than these which are mentioned in this sutra. Be happy with others' happiness. Wherever you see happiness in this world, that should make you happy. The trees are beautifully dancing because of the breeze or the wind. Perhaps the tree is happy, you should be happy with that. Somebody came to you saying that my son stood first in university. You should feel equally happy as if he's your own son. No to irsham, no competitive spirit. Happiness in the happiness of others. Mind well, all these four modalities everywhere, others is given prominent, not me. Does that mean that your own son stands first in the university? You should not feel happy? You should feel happy. Happiness is because a happy thing has happened to whom is immaterial. Karuna, you must feel sad, tormented. The heart should be wrenched with the pain, looking at the pain of others. Paradukha should elicit the response of Karuna. Siddhartha Gautam Buddha is epitome of Karuna. Mahatma Gandhi, Karuna. Dalai Lama, Karuna. Compassion. You have to feel compassionate about others' pain. Ask a question very frankly to yourself inside your heart. Do you feel better when somebody else is in trouble, so that you can say that not only me, he's also in trouble? Doesn't it make you feel better? उसका भी नुकसान हुआ है, मेरा भी नुकसान हुआ है. We feel better because you feel that your pain has gone down. That is not the way, sir. Any pain arising amongst any one of us, somebody is suffering from a disease, we must feel how he must be going through that pain. Somebody lost a job, we look at it very neutrally. And the reason I'll tell you, it is because my job is still not gone, it is still in my hand. Being neutral about somebody else's pain is a sign of tamoguna. So Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. Whenever you come across a saintly or a good person or a good deed or a satsang, you should feel happy. Unfortunately, in satsang also, sometimes we feel, oh, he's trying to speak, he doesn't know how to speak. Anybody can speak like that. We become personal when a good thing is happening. When you are in a temple and the priest is trying to do the puja, we find faults with the priest rather than focusing on puja is happening, the Lord is there. So anything good that is happening, you should feel harsha. Mudita is harsha, feeling of anandam. And then you do come across people who are not good people, in the sense they commit a lot of papam. You're sitting next to a person who is drunk. Immediately we start in our mind saying that how bad the man is. He doesn't know when to, he's drinking, he's good for nothing, he's to be. We condemn a person. Condemnation is not allowed because it creates vikshape in the mind. You should have no reaction for such a person, which is called as upeksha. In case of upeksha, there is audasinya or tathasthata, neither good nor bad. Dear sir, if we follow these four principles while interacting with the world, the mind gets steadied. In fact, it is called as parikarma. Parikarma means a karma to be done prior for the chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi is an essential constituent of any marg in sadhana. We cannot be successful in any of the sadhana, whether karma marga, bhakti marga, jnana marga, raja marga, kundalini yoga, any yoga, unless we purify our chitta, and the chitta shuddhi purification is nothing else but pratishedha through abhyasam of the first margam given by Patanjali Maharaj, which says Maitri, Karuna, Upeksha, Mudita, these four to be observed in daily life. The mind will always try to do something different. Those thoughts of competitiveness will come in mind when somebody is successful. Drop them off. Feel pure. Feel joyous with somebody else's joy. Feel sad when somebody is not happy. We can't be walking past a person who is hungry. On the way to Sabrimala, we want to reach the God's destination. But on the way, there are so many who don't have food. Why don't we look at them? The God knows that my real devotee is not coming to me because he has neglected Daridri Narayana on the way. Some funding is asked by noble organization like Ramakrishna Mission or our own organization of Chinmaya family. We read the mail and browse it forward. It doesn't occur to us that how many people are getting benefited by the spread of Jnanam, which is started by none else than the mighty person called Swami Chinmayananda. So we cannot move forward because that is where the donation or the dhanam is a must. People are not only deprived of food, people are deprived of knowledge. Vidya dhanam, atisreshta dhanam. By giving donation, the Bhagavad Gita is going to be distributed freely. It might fall into somebody and it will change the life of that person forever, and you may be the indirect instrument of God to change that. A continuous alert observation of our mind while interacting in this world in this manner gives us a great reward of reverting back from our own world to the God's world, which is to be done through the ekagrata. So behaving in this manner makes the chitta pure, and a pure chitta is a ready soil for germinating the seed of ekagrata. The second method of observing similar kind of activity in order to come out of the vikshepa, the second parikarma advised by Patanjali Maharaj is prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. Mind well Shvasa Prashvasa was used as one of the Vikshepa. Keep your eyes and ears open to see the words that are used by Patanjali Maharaj. He has still not used the word pranayama anywhere. He has used Shvasa Prashvasa as Vikshepa. That means respiration itself is a disturbed state of mind. We saw that in Vikshepa. Now he is saying the second method of controlling the mind from Vikshepa and establishing it against this antaraya or the obstacles is Prachardana, Vidharana. Prachardana Vidharana is still not using the word pranayama. And Prachardana, we saw last time, is nothing else but Yogokta Ritya Bahihi Nissaranam, releasing the air outside through the nostrils. The nostrils is Nasika Putabhyam. So, Prachardana and Antahapanam, drinking the air inside, and Antahstapanam. So, the Puraka and the Rechaka has not been still described by the word Puraka Rechaka, but just by bringing in the air and releasing the air. Now, what happens because of this is, this being the prelude to pranayama, it stabilizes the mind. Every disturbed mind breathes in a wrong way. Disturbance in the breathing is the result of disturbance in the mind. Either you correct the mind from disturbance or you correct the respiration from disturbance. That is why by breathing normally, fully, with correct pressure, in a proper manner, yogoktaritya, the mind starts stabilizing. This is what we practice when we try to do dhyanam. In our morning satsang, we do this pranayama for this purpose, to reduce the vikshepa in the chitta or the mind. Breathe slowly inside, breathe fully outside in a very steady manner, tailadharavat, like a stream of oil going out of the air, coming in of the air. And when you do this, naturally you concentrate on the air. You feel the air. When you are feeling the air, you are indirectly concentrating on the passage of the air. Thereby, all other thoughts are nullified. This stabilizes the mind, and you definitely right away feel a peace that is prevailing. Still, the word pranayama is not used by Patanjali Maharaj, because in the second pada, he is going to get into the details of pranayama. We are in Yoga Shastra. Pranayama is the soul of Yoga Shastra. So the correct meaning of pranayama and pranayama's different correct dimensions will be discussed in detail in the second pada. This is a prelude to pranayama. Mind well, pranayama is not deep breathing. Now let us first clarify certain things about pranayama. Pranasya ayamaha iti pranayamaha. Shvasasya ayamaha iti na pranayamaha. It is not purely the breath that we are trying to control here. Through the breath, prana is controlled. Now the question is, what is the difference between breath and prana? There is a distinct difference. Prana, we must know what is prana. We all know there is a physical body that we have, The one which is see from outside, the Annamaya Kosha, we can see from outside, which is full of whatever external features, and the internal features of the Deha has the blood vessels, the lymphatic vessels, the veins, the nerves, the brain, the digestive system, the locomotory system, the gastrointestinal system, the spleen, the liver. All this is existing there. Now, we all know one thing, that everything in this world is penetrated by consciousness. We have no doubt about it. That consciousness resides in me, resides in you, resides in this air, resides in the stone, resides everywhere. And it is the consciousness that is responsible for all that I am doing, including the talking, the thinking. We all agree to that. The question is, that consciousness which is undescribable, which doesn't have any rupam, which exists, we know, but we have not seen it because it cannot be seen. When it interacts with this inert body, Jada Sharira, there must be some interaction happening between inert thing and a powerful non-inert thing. There has to be a Prakriti or a Jada and the consciousness or Chetana. When they come together, do they just come and juxtapose with each other, or there is some modality through which the consciousness seeps into the Jada? Think about this. The consciousness in each jiva seeps into each individual constituent of the jiva, to the minutest of the particle, the minutest of the cells of the body, through a intervening constructive interface. That interface is called prana. That is why we have Annamaya Kosha, then there is Pranamaya Kosha. Not possible to be demonstrated physically, not yet discovered in any way by any science, including medical science. However, the medicine describes that the stomach churns the food and propels it further. The question is, it also knows it is because of the muscles that are lying on the wall of the intestine and the stomach. But what makes the intestine, how it utilizes the energy to start the pulsation, that is something which is presumed in medicine. Electric current is responsible for the fan blades to move. We may describe all the things about the fan's blade to move, but how, when and how the electric current gets converted into this mobile activity or motive power, there is something happening there. We know it happens, but how, we do not know. Similarly, the consciousness makes the body work in this world by giving its own consciousness to each cell through the prana. And this prana is distributed throughout the body of every jiva in a different manner. This prana has its own channels. Those channels are called nadi. How many nadis are there are seen not through the microscope, but through the eyes of meditating yogi. The Kathaka Rishi of Kathopanishada in the last Valli has given the description as Shataikachanadi Nadyaha, 101 nadis. Shiva Samhita calls 250,000 nadis. Taittiriya Upanishad calls 100 nadis. Then there are Upanadis. So there is a web of channels of distribution of prana. These nadis are different than the blood vessels and the lymphatic vessels. So for the science, The body is working through the blood vessels, carrying the blood, the nerves carrying the nerve signal. But for a yogi, he says that is the external body. Superimposed inside on that body is the Sukshma Sharira, which has Pranamaya Kosha, which has its own system. This prana has specific functions depending upon the location of the prana, and that is what keeps the body alive and kicking. After the prana has given its contribution to the cells function. So the cardiovascular system works very well, but its working is nothing else but the effect of the pranas working in balance. Based on the functioning of this prana, they are divided into different types as Pancha Mukhya Prana and Pancha Upaprana. We are going to see all this in detail when the pranayama will come. But the pranayama is meant for controlling this prana, not the respiration. Then what is the relation between respiration and prana? Prana takes the vayu from outside and utilizes it as a constructive interface to create that consciousness into active energy and spread it throughout the body. So prana is an essence that is made out of the respiration or respiratory gases or the vayu. The essence is prana, which is distributed through its own channels called nadi, including the main nadi plexus or the arrangement which is at the back or the merudanda or the back of the spine, which is in the form of Shad Chakras, which is a separate science itself. We shall be touch upon it whenever the occasion arises. But the fact remains that pranayama is ayama, control of these pranas, not the respiration. It is done through the respiration, but it is not the control of the respiration. The control is of prana made possible through the respiration. And that is why we must understand that the Puraka and Rechak has almost not much of a value in pranayama. It is an adjunct to develop the practice of the most important pranayama is called retention of breath inside the body called kumbhaka. It is this kumbhaka, retention of breath inside, if developed in a gradual and guided manner, then this can create wonders in the body. We are going to see that in detail. Only thing that we need to understand is this retention of vayu inside, which is called kumbhaka, should be done under careful supervision of a guru. Otherwise, it can create havoc in the body. It has direct reflection on nervous disturbances if not done properly. There are many excited people who went into this Shastra by not having right guru, ultimately have landed into some kind of paralysis or nervous disturbance or even frank madness. This kumbhaka can either be done through the exercise of breathing, retention of this kumbhaka, or it can also be implanted by the touch of some guru. But that has to be also done under enormous amount of supervision by the guru. Without really realizing its importance, Swami Vivekananda in 1886, while sitting in meditation, he realized his body is now full of electric current. He felt it. And he asked his colleague, Swami Abhedananda, whose name was Kali. He said, Kali, touch my knee. Kali Maharaj touched his knee and felt tremendous amount of electric current. And he continued holding it, resulting into similar kind of status happening to him. When this went to the ears of Ramakrishna, he scolded Vivekananda, saying that it is because of Kalimata that somehow you survived. Otherwise, this could have led to enormous problem to Kali's mental health. I believe this example is enough to tell us how important it is to have pranayama under the guidance of a adept guru. So what we do and before that as a prelude to pranayama is breathing exercises. They have their own effect, they have their own advantages. So that is why deep breathing is not pranayama, it is a prelude to pranayama. So by having this prachardana and vidharana bhyam, if done in a proper manner, that is the reason why prayatna visheshat is the word used in the bhashyam. Bhoj Maharaj in his Rajamartanda Vritti says that such respiration has to be matra pramanena. In Yoga Vasishtha, it is called Sukshma Rupena. In Tattva Vaisharati of Vachaspati Mishra, it is called Yoga Shastroktat. All the three Bhashyakaras are talking about guided way of proper breathing. So when we do pranayama, so-called pranayama, we just do long inhalation, prolonged exhalation, and waiting for some time at the end of the either exhalation or inhalation. It is not that it is without any effect. It does calm the mind, but what the yogi expects it to be is a different aspect of pranayama. So when we do this, when there is no guided pranayama happening, then it is better to do deep puraka, deep rechaka, and it is all right to stay outside in the bahya kumbhaka. So you exhale completely and be steady without breathing for some time. But internal antar kumbhaka, that is breathing inside fully and then waiting, keeping the air inside, is something which we should not try for a long time because it can result into disastrous problems. Two reasons are there for that. One is chitta is not pure up to the mark. One. And second is there has to be a guru to guide in this. When that happens, then the pranayama starts. When we'll be seeing the yama niyama asana pranayama, the fourth step, that is the time when we'll be seeing in details about this particular thing. So prachardana vidharanabhyam pranasya is a second method of stabilizing the mind. Then comes the question, what is the third method? Because we have 7 methods as told. The third method is vishayavati va pravrittir utpanna manasaha sthiti nibandhini. Patanjali Maharaj is kind enough to tell us that so far we are all talking in words. And you all must be feeling that, is it that it is a very imaginary science called Patanjali Yoga Sutra? That is why in this third method that he has given, he says, please test the power of yoga at least so that you will have more shraddha on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And what is that he's trying to tell us? Vishayavati va pravritir utpanna. If you take one Vishaya and fully focus on that Vishaya, then you get super sensuous experience. And that experience puts us very high faith, shraddha. Which are the objects? Where can you focus? He has given precise locations. Patanjali Maharaj has given precise location. The meaning of this mantra is a cognition resulting from sensuous objects. When it reaches superphysical or suprasensuous state, you can get steadiness of mind. नासिकाग्रे धारतो यस्य या दिव्य गंध संवित सा गंध pravrutti. If the yogi focuses his mind on the tip of the tongue, mind well, when we say tip of the tongue, it need not always mean opening the eyes and looking towards the tip. You close the eyes and you still can feel you are focusing on the tip of the tongue. So you focus on the tip of the tongue, and if the concentration is there sufficient, of course, of a person whose chitta is nirmala, then this concentration made on the tip of the nose, all of a sudden beautiful aroma starts coming. Divya gandha, small puffs of aromatic fragrance, some fragrance, that fragrance which cannot be described in words, which has no parallel with the perfumes that we are aware of. That is why it is called Divya Gandha. It actually, the yogi feels it. Focus is on tip of the nose. Supposing somebody is focusing on the tip of the tongue, the tongue is inside your mouth, but by closing your eyes, still it is possible to imagine the tip of the tongue, and we focus on that tip of the tongue as if only the tip is existing in this world. When we focus correctly, rasag samvita, taste of very high caliber develops in the mouth. Without eating anything, you get the essence of the rasa. Imagine a feeling that you get for a moment when you have a delicacy that you eat. There is one moment while eating where you feel ah. That ah feeling is because of the rasa pariposha. Now, when you focus on the tip of the tongue, there is a rasa pariposha that happens, and a rasa samvit, it is called. You devour a taste. You are not moving any organ inside your mouth. It is the feeling after focusing on the tip of the tongue. If you focus in the palate, taluni rupa samvita. If you focus on the palate, all of a sudden, rupam, dazzling, beautiful shapes are seen. They are not seen by you earlier. They are so dazzling. Mind well, all this samvita gives enormous amount of satisfaction, peace, happiness. So you see rupam. Which rupam? Any rupam, but that rupam will be dazzling, happy, making you feel happy. The yogi is basking in the glory of that rupam. So taluni rupa samvita. Jiva madhye, in the center of the tongue, if we focus, sparsha samvita. Sparsha is one act which we have not really tested sufficiently. Very rarely, touch of a person to the body makes you feel good. We say maa ka mamata ka sparsh, the mother hugging a child, the wife, the fiance, and the partner, all they know is sparsha. When a newly married couple, or when a fiance touches for the first time a finger or a hand, what is the feeling that you get? The feeling is of some enormous effulgence coming inside. Normally, you touch your organs like hand, etc., to others' hand quite frequently, but it doesn't create that kind of sensation. On special occasions, we have felt that. Here, the the same almost turned into a divine kind of sparsha. So jivva madhe sparsha samvitam. Jivva mulye. At the root of the tongue, if you focus, shabda samvita. We all know we like music. Music is what? They are words. We speak words, but there is a difference between musical word and a normal word. A musical word you feel, very good. Ragam, swaram, with nadam, all these sounds, shabd, have what? A attraction, attractive feeling. That is the reason why we listen to the music. Now imagine a celestial music. Similarly, a shabd of that kind gives enormous happiness for the yogi who concentrates at the root of the tongue. It is called shabda samvita. So, shabda, rasa at the tip, rupa at the talu, that is the palate, sparsha at the center of the tongue, and nasagre divya gandha samvita. So focusing on nasagra, tip of the tongue, center of the tongue, root of the tongue, and the palate, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Root of the tongue, center of the tongue, palate, tip of the tongue, and the nose tip. So 5 samvita, essence of those feelings, of those 5 can be observed, and that also steadies the mind. So engrossed are we in those divine experiences of this, and mind well, Patanjali Maharaj, what he has made in the sutras, in the bhashyas, one of the bhashyakara has said that this is just a trifle example of what yogi enjoys. This is just like something that is tested to a child. In the Hindi translation of the bhashya, one of the author has used the word ye to fuljadi hai. It is just a trailer of what a yogi normally enjoys. But most important part is Patanjali Maharaj, what he said on that Bhashyam, Vyas Maharaj says, although Acharya Upadesha Anumana Shastra talks about everything, still, at least by Ansha Swarupa, the practitioner of yoga must experience this to create more faith in yoga. Imagine somebody who has reached up to this stage and gets that Divya Gandha Anubhava or Tej Anubhava through Rupam or Sparsha Anubhava or Shabda Anubhava. Won't he be more and more dedicated to yoga to move forward? Another aspect is because these are all happiness giving experiences, naturally the happiness arising out of subjects and objects outside is not liked by a yogi. So, in other words, these experiences help in developing vairagya. To an extent, the yogi's body itself becomes environment changing experience. Gurudeva, when he was operated in USA, in the next operation theater, there was an orthopedician also operating on one patient who had no idea of Chinmayananda, Indian philosophy, nothing. But he said to his assistant doctor that I am finding today something different and pleasant in this building. What is the matter? He said, I can't say exactly why, but I'm feeling good about it. And the assistant said jokingly that maybe because there is one Swami who is getting operated in the operation theater next to us. This is the beauty of yoga. But instead of reading the beauty of yoga, Patanjali Maharaj says, please practice it for the sake of at least getting the first initial experiences of Divya Gandha, Divya Sparsha. So Gandha Samvita, Gandha Pravrutti, Rasa Samvita, Rupa Samvita, Shabda Samvita, and Sparsha Samvita. These five are possible depending upon where we focus and concentrate. All these discussions definitely brings us to a very important aspect, that Adhyatma is a science where serious practice is required. Enough of the readings and the talkings that we have done. We have to do something practical. Withdraw from the world of Jiva Kruta Prapancha. Whenever we are out, Patanjali Maharaj has already told us how to behave. Maitri Karuna Mudita Upeksha when interacting with others. But more important is, a sadhaka should interact less in the world. More he should be with himself. Solitude. Be with yourself and focus. Focus on going inside. You are your own friend. Atmayeva Ripura Atmanaha. The meaning is here. You and your inside. When you try to create a harmony with that, the concentration goes up. Because you have not misbehaved in the world, since you followed Patanjali Maharaj's advice, there are no commotions in the mind, no depression, no anxiety, no anger, no jealousy. Let the world be where it is. You focus on yourself. Keep interaction to the minimum with the world, less with the worldly object. Spend time with yourself. Do not spend time with others. We are so much used to spending time with others that the major problem in the old age is there is nobody to talk. You don't need anybody to talk because you have antar samvad. Speak with yourself. Focus on your inner side, your inner compartment. Be pure at heart. Do not harbinge any ill feelings with anyone outside. Not because you don't want to harm anybody, because it is good for your own mental health. A sound mind, a pure heart. These are basic requirements for a yogi. Now that we are studying Patanjali Yoga Sutra, if we simply read it as a dry verbal testimony, it will be a waste of time. If it prompts in thinking and helps in implementing in our own life, then the Yoga Shastra Abhyas will be of enormous importance to us. Take every sutra seriously. Think about it, mananam. Implement it in your daily life. And then bask in the glory of the path. Mind well the paravairagya, and then reaching to the state of samadhi may not happen in one birth. It may take time. We are not concerned about it. The path itself is luminous. The path itself is enjoyable. The path itself is full of sukham. It is a march towards anandam, but definitely it is a march against the dukkham. We will feel more rejuvenated, more powerful. The mind will be under our control. We will be a king walking on the earth. We shall not be subjected to the vagaries of mind and the people around us. World cannot do anything to a person whose mind is under his control. Sanyatendriya. One of the way of becoming Sanyatendriya is to steady the mind. When the mind is steady, Indriyas, even if they waver, they are practically useless. Controlling mind is far superior than controlling indriyas. To control the mind, more time should be spent with the mind. And with this, we'll be able to achieve the steadiness of mind. Out of the 7 methods of steadiness of mind, we have covered 3. But the coverage is not for academic exercise, but for all of us to think and get a true power within ourselves. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you for the clarification on Sukh and Dukh. I think there are some shlokas in which it's used. I will explore how it is used there and how this definition fits, and I might come back if I need more clarifications. Thank you. Please go ahead, Mudit ji.
Sanjay ji, on the little more clarification on the pranas. And there are 5 main that people talk of, right? Apana, samana, vyana, all of that. Now you mentioned that what I was trying to understand is, yes, that breathing, the respiratory practices help, but even the pranas that you mentioned, right? They are the ones that enable the respiration also. So where does the source? I mean, how does is it is it just part of consciousness that these vayu, you talk of prana vayus, right? You said it's an enabling, it's not breathing, right? Which most people talk about. So how does this? And I know this. I mean, you mentioned system of nadis, etc. But there has to be a source. Is it just available in the universe, and we sort of access it by virtue of taking birth, or how does it? If you can just clarify that a bit.
The consciousness is the only thing that is pervading in everything around us. When a jada pravrutti or a pancha mahabhutatmak tattva, which is jada, gets penetrated by the consciousness, the very penetration itself creates an entity which can use the consciousness for the movement of the matter. We have one part called energy, another part called matter. Matter exhibits certain properties because it is enabled by the energy. This is our experience in world of mechanics, including quantum mechanics. The energy, when supplied to a matter, when they come together, matter exhibits some momentum, some activity, some karya shakti. In the similar manner, consciousness, when it penetrates us or any jiva, it makes the jada act. The eye is able to see, the mouth is able to talk, the tongue is able to taste. These activities of this jada organ, the dead man's tongue just lies there hanging, cannot understand anything because the matter is there, but the energy energizing it to function in a particular manner as per the speciality of functioning is not there. Since it comes from the consciousness, it can be, we can take an analogy of a computer. The human being is the consciousness. The hardware is the matter. And the software is the constructing interface between the human being and the hardware. This constructing interface is prana. So consciousness gifts or exhibits itself or implants itself on the matter through the pranas. And that being the case, the moment the pranas are withdrawn from the matter, we call it as death of the matter, not the death of the consciousness. What has happened is consciousness has declined to implant itself through the pranas on the body of the jada. So whenever that prana, being the interface between the consciousness on one side and the prakriti on the other side, the pranas are the balancing act between two, one inert thing and one always active thing. Chaitanya and prakriti intervening bridge is this. Now pranas, while working, because pranas itself is consciousness, consciousness has to be there at each and every corner of whatever is there, because it is the only thing that is existing. Pranas also have to reach everywhere as far as its exhibitory apparatus is concerned. If my body is 5 feet and 5 inches, the consciousness here, which gets through me through prana, extends to 5 feet 5 inches and functions in that much area. But does that mean the pranas are restricted only to the body? They are not. Because since consciousness is everywhere, pranas are also everywhere. If pranas are everywhere, then the way consciousness converts itself into prana to get in touch with the prakriti, pranas also utilize something to function itself while functioning. And the utilization of prana, if prana is the horse on which consciousness rides, then vayu is the one on which prana rides. Each one is using something else to perform the function. Consciousness uses prana to activate. Prana uses vayu to activate itself. And since the vayu is there outside, the vayu is akasha tattva and then vayu tattva. So it is the second important tattva available in Pancha Mahabhuta. That vayu itself has consciousness in it. So by using the vayu, pranas activate themselves. This activation happens at the behest of the consciousness only, and then they are competent to serve the person or the jiva. That being the case, if the horse is not trotting properly, the rider may not reach the destination. Important thing is the rider. So what ayama we are doing is of pranas. But because pranas ride on the horse called vayu, the vayu also assumes significance. So supposing that the horse is going nicely, very long distance he is going, but he doesn't know the direction, then it will be respiration, not pranayama. Our main aim is to see that the rider goes in right direction with the help of the horse called vayu. So combination of these two is what pranayama ultimately leads to. So it is nothing else, a constructive interface between consciousness and prakriti through pranas. Pranas utilizing vayu from outside to activate themselves. After activation, it stratifies itself from functional allocation called Vyana, Apana, Udana, Samana, etc. So these allocations are strategic allocations of this prana's energy. Prana is nothing else but energy. The purest form of energy would be the consciousness. But consciousness per se doesn't do anything. When it exhibits its power, it becomes energy. It is called Karya Shakti. A fructified Karya Shakti is prana. The prana utilizes the vayu, and the combination of activated prana with its strategic allocation then keeps the body alive. Made alive through beating of the heart, working of the neurons, working of the kidney. That is again the further functioning. So the kidney, the prana, the heart, and everybody, they keep demanding for prana. Prana keeps supplying them the energy for their functioning. And that is the reason why the pranas which are there into Vyana, Apana, and Udana, they are opposing forces. As long as they are opposing each other very well, the life gets balanced. The moment they come together, yogi brings them together, Vyana and Apana, and then it uses that force to knock on the Sushumna Nadi. That is a Kundalini Shastra. We might come to that as we unfold the further padas, but as of that, difference between pranayama respiration should be now clear in the mind. Hari Om.
Sanjay, just one allied
Yes.
question to this.
Yes.
Here we are saying that it works both ways, right? So by controlling prana, you control your consciousness in a certain sense, right? It's both ways.
Yes.
That and there is one school. We also study that because of your past karma and etc., you come to this world and you have a limited time frame, right? So is that most yogis will say that that is alterable, right? Depending on the way you breathe and how you breathe, and if you control it, you're able to live longer, etc. So these are two opposing theories in a sense.
No, they are not opposing in that sense. When you say live longer, Jati, Ayu, Bhog, these three things are determined at the time of birth according to Shastra. Jati, Ayu, and Bhoga. Which species you will be born into, how long you will live, and what will you enjoy or not enjoy. These three are decided at the time of birth by, as per Shastra, because of what? Because of allocation of prarabdha. There is no controversy in this. You are allotted a prarabdha. So syllabus is already printed when you say first cry. That's done. The question now is, does that mean prarabdha would create a situation for me? Now, in that situation, supposing a prarabdha creates a situation that I don't have a right hand. Now the question is, I will have to develop my skill so that everything I do with my left hand. Now, being born with not having right hand is because of my prarabdha. But then developing skills of the left hand to see that I stay in that situation is swaprayatna. So the combination of these two is the prayatnam when you do, and with that prayatnam, you will be able to develop the step to go forward. And this all is nothing else but migrating from one guna to the other guna. If you are born with tamas guna prarabdha, you will have to try very hard to become rajoguni. If you are having too much of rajoguna in you, you will have to try for sattva guna. If you got too much of sattva guna in you, automatically will go into meditation and other things. That is first part. When they say you can prolong your life, what it means is the prolonging of life is not to be seen only in the context of the current life that I am living. Dirghayusha. If Dirghayusha was something which was there for the yogi, then the excellent Raja Yogi called Swami Vivekananda would not have died at the age of 39, and Ramakrishna Paramahansa would not have prophesied that he will not live long. When we say you can prolong your life, first thing is your quality of life can change. Because if you do not are having good health, there is nothing you can do in any of the sadhanas. Forget about yoga, even in karma yoga, even in bhakti yoga, you require good health. When we say health, we do not only talk about the physical health, the mental health. For both these health, the things start right from ahara, vihara, and vichara. So the one who is having all these three together correct with the sound body and the sound mind, and when he is prompted because of his prarabdha for the sattva guna, he will start thinking about it. That is the reason why early morning in the Tuesday, there are only 5 or 7 people who are listening to Yoga Shastra, none of the other members of even Chinmaya family. Because the prarabdha is not there. The reason why then you feel like getting up at 5:30 to listen to this is because earlier the exercise has been done. This is a further inching towards the goal. And it will automatically happen. Then why is it that we are not leaving our home and going to Himalayas and doing austerities? Because we still don't have that much of sattva guna in us. It will come. So that is why when we talk about the longevity of life, we are basically trying to talk about having a healthy body. And the question is, with the healthy body, the number of years that you live, to an extent, even the yogis or the Jivan Muktas who have made dead man alive, when they were asked into that case, how is it that you increase the life of Mr. So and so who died on the spot and you made him alive again? They said, even we have a ability to take the life of the next birth and give it in this birth. As a result, the next birth may have a little lesser life than what was expected. Now, who has this power or authority to intermingle and change? Kartum akartum anyatha kartum shakti. Those who are Ishwara Koti can do that. Samartha Ramdas did it. And the answer which I told you is by Samartha Ramdas only. Jnaneshwar Maharaj did it. There are many people who have made dead people alive. That is because of the level at which they are. They are Ishwara Koti. So that is why there is no contradiction as such. A yogi, if you look at Gorakh Bani or Goraksha Samhita, the highest of the Hatha yogis is nothing else but Machendranath and Gorakhnath. So Gorakhnath Maharaj has written that a sound body has to be created. Now, how does he increase his age? The reason is, Maharaj, when you have control on the Pancha Mahabhuta, don't you think you can increase your age also? You're gone beyond the realm of Prarabdha. You can do anything. Have you not heard of the famous sage who lived for 1000 years and came to meet, his name was Changdev. He came to meet Jnanadeva. He used to be alive, he was alive for 1000 years. Every time the Yamadut used to come to take him, he used to remain himself into Bahya Kumbhaka. He used to take his pranas and put it in Bahya Kumbhaka. And you know, Yamaduta, they do haran of prana. They have direct control on the pranas. They take away the pranas. That is their methodology. When the pranas itself is not existing in the body, what can they take? And moment that moment was over, he used to be again breathing inside, because he was a yogi par excellence. So imagine, for a yogi to increase the age is not a big deal. The question here is, yogi reaches a stage when he feels even increasing age is futile. Not only that, a yogi of a highest order, it's Jnanadev Maharaj. He said, enough for me. And at the age of 21, he voluntarily abdicated the life. He took the pranas out of his body and took Sanjeevana Samadhi. Hari Om.
There you go. Let me continue. Thank you.
Sanjay, just another small technical question.
Ji.
While doing jogging and running and other cardiac activities, we use a lot of breath. How can we maximize this activity in terms of pranayama? Can we connect them with pranayama in any way?
Yes, it is always connected. When you are doing exercise, by doing this, during exercise, you feel shortness of breath, but you keep pushing yourself. What you are actually doing is you are increasing the capacity of your lungs as well as the oxygenation capacity by keeping the organs of inhalation, exhalation in proper order. This helps as a prelude to pranayama. Now, if somebody is doing pranayama, he will be a good runner. And if somebody is doing good running, it will be easier for him to sit for pranayama. They are mutually reciprocative. Let me give you an example of a yogi, the Swami Ramatirtha. He had gone to America to give Vedanta lectures. One fine morning, people said, "Sir, this Sunday we will not have lecture because there is a marathon." So he asked him, "What is marathon?" They said, "We run on a mountain and we run 42 kilometers. So he said, "I would like to enjoy that also." They said, "Swamiji, it requires practice." He said, "No problem, I will come. Maybe I will be last to come." He went there and he stood first. Because being a yogi, he was able to hold his breath and reach up to that point so easily that others were left far behind. So it is a reciprocative. That is why exercise in terms of physical exercise, which is advocated in Yoga Shastra as asana. So along with asana, all other exercises will help us to keep ourselves physically fit to breathe properly. For example, an obese person cannot be a good yogi unless it is a yogi who has gone obese. There are many Jivan Muktas who are obese, but they are post realization. So that is why pre-realization, it is always better to have body. That is why Gorakshanath describes the body of a yogi as Mita Ahari, lean in body. The modern language is low BMI, but basically lean in body. Mita Ahari, Laghu Nidra, very less sleeping, only couple of hours. This is how he has described the yogi. So yes, jogging and other things, it does improve the physical capacity of a person to breathe properly. It is an added adjunct. For example, an asthmatic cannot be a good yogi because he will always have shortness of breath. So he has to work. But by the time he practices pranayama, the asthma goes away. Hari Om.